Hairstylist, when does it end? When will you actually start to put yourself first so you can make more money, keep more money, and do it without feeling guilty? I'll tell you when. Right mother effing now. Welcome to the Make That Money podcast with Nina Tulio, where we talk all things pricing, all things profit, and how to build your business with confidence. Hey, my friends. Welcome back to the Make That Money podcast. My name is Nina Tulio, and I'm your host. And guess what? I have a freaking guest today. So now I've been doing this for a couple months, and I've only had one guest, and that was my friend Michelle Cook, who is a CPA, and her and I have worked together in my courses for years and years. And if you haven't listened to our podcast, go back and listen to it. It is about taxes and about paying yourself. So she's the only guest that I have had on so far. But today I have a really special treat because I have had the honor of working with this person for the past 4 years now, I would say 4 years. And it has been really a joy to watch her grow within her business. And I think it's important for you to hear from real salon owners that are doing real things and who have gone through some real struggle. And so today, my special guest is Debbie Sprankle, and she is the owner of Exhale A Salon, which is in Southern Pines, North Carolina. And she has been a hairstylist for 30 years, but she's been in business for 15 years. So she has been through all of the things. So I'm so happy to have you here, my friend Debbie. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Nina. It's such an honor to be on a podcast with you. I'm excited.
Yeah. Yes, I know. I know. And I said, listen, it's just like our Zoom calls, right?
I
We're
know.
just going to do little chit chats. But I think what you have to say and what you have to share is so powerful and so impactful, especially for the salon owners that maybe are just getting started, but even more so for the salon owners who have been through it and who have been, an owner for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, who have noticed a significant change in our industry. And I feel like with COVID was such a really hard time for everyone. But on the flip side of that, it actually shed a lot of light on our industry. And there were a lot of good shifts that were made in our industry. So before we kind of dive into the interview, I already said that you've been in the industry 30 years as a stylist, 15 years as an owner. Um, Tell us maybe just a little bit about you, just like Cliff Notes version, just, like a quick little peek before we dive into the actual interview part.
Okay, so one of my little loves of my life, I was actually a triathlete for 12 years, lived,
Yes.
breathed, swim, bike, run, and I did a lot of road cycling, marathons. So I've always been a lover of sports,
Mm-hmm.
competitive. Oh, I can do better next time. I'm gonna try it next time. So that's usually when I wasn't focusing on my career, that was my
Mm-hmm.
other career. Because I'd be
Ooh.
up at 4 or 5 in the morning, I'd train, and then I would go to work. So that's basically my life. Now I've switched off, I've switched over to bodybuilding. So I get the
Yes.
workout in and then I focus on the salon and the stylist. So yeah.
That's incredible. Do you feel like your love for training and that competitive mindset has helped you as a salon owner in your business?
Yes. But I had to learn along the way that when I became a hairstylist
Mm-hmm.
and opened the salon in North Carolina, that not everyone was going to have that same drive. Not
Mm-hmm.
everyone's going to have that same passion. I have it because of an athletic background.
Right.
And so I had to really dial back and say, okay, not every stylist is going to be that way.
Right.
And it was hard for me to even get into the to be a hairstylist because back in my day, there was such a stigma with it. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking 30 years ago.
Right.
And I loved hair, but I also loved being an athlete. And when I was done being an athlete, dirty and gross, I wanted to look like a female. So,
Yeah.
so with that stigma, anyway, I just thought, well, I'm gonna have the best of both worlds. So it
Well,
did help me, but I had to dial back.
yes, I wanted to circle back on that because I feel like, and I think we have had these conversations before in some of our sessions, but when we cannot have the same expectation, or we can't expect the same from the stylist or from the team that we expect from ourselves. And a lot of times that can get uh jarbled in some of
Mhm.
the motions as being an owner. Like, well, I expect this from my team, I expect that, I expect them to show up as me, I expect them to handle things as me, and that just doesn't happen because you're always going to end up disappointed. The expectation that you have is can be lead to disappointment when you expect people to act and respond like you. And so a lot of
Right.
times what I say is like, "Hey, you got to dial back the expectation. Keep the standard the same,
Mhm.
but we can't expect people to be us, and it's almost unfair to do that." So it kind of aligns with what you said when you said that you had to dial it back because maybe they weren't receiving it in that way, you know?
Right. And like to your point, I would get so disappointed and I could not like, why wouldn't they want to be this way? This is their career, their career. This is how you're supposed to be. But
Mhm.
again, with all the changes, I had to say, okay, wait a minute. I have to look at the person as the person,
Mm.
me into that person.
Mhm. Well,
And
that's
that was
eye-opening.
hard.
Mhm.
It was very hard for me. It took a long time,
Yeah.
hitting my head a couple times against the wall,
Right, yeah. I bet. Well, listen, we've all been there, and kind of leading into that, I wanna kinda start off with a hard time for you. Tell me a little bit about one of the hardest times that you've had as an owner. How did you get through it? How did you keep your doors open? And, I'm sure I'll have some follow-up questions from there, but I don't care who you are in this industry as a salon owner, even as an independent when you're running your own business, everyone goes through difficult times.
Oh,
No one
yes.
no one ever has a solid clean run of joy and happiness and butterflies. It just doesn't work that way. So
Mm-mm.
why don't you share one of your most challenging times and how you got through it?
So one of my most challenging times, and this was before COVID,
Mhm.
I left New York to move to North Carolina to be able to, again, train year round, swim, bike, run, because in New
Mhm.
York, it would be, the weather was awful.
Yeah.
So I started out at a salon renting, but I was still going back up to New York working.
Mhm.
And then I decided, okay, I just wasn't liking the atmosphere. So I said,
Mhm.
okay, I'm going to open a salon.
Mm.
Not knowing anybody in the hair industry. I mean, I just knew a couple of people that I worked with at that other salon. So I took the plunge, and I will tell you, it was physically and emotionally, it was very tough. It was either my motto was sink or swim
Mhm.
because it was hard for me to find stylists. And I had that mindset of, okay, just put your blinders on, work, 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 work.
Mm.
And there was a time I worked 18 days in a row because I wanted to keep my
Wow.
doors open.
Sure.
And then I just realized I have so much more to learn. Like, I need to learn how to recruit people. And, I've always come from the space of I want to give everybody a chance. I
Mhm.
didn't want to have, they didn't have to fit a certain image.
Mhm.
Like, everyone deserves a chance. Well, that always didn't work. And I mean, there was a time it was just myself and one other or two other stylists. And I have to say, for many years, it was like that. And it finally, maybe I don't know how many years ago that it slowly start turning around. But I
Mhm.
had to educate myself on what to do, how to do it. And again, this is what I've learned from you. I was fear ridden.
Mm.
It's just easier for me to say, nope, I'm just going to work 12, 14-hour days. But I got so burned out. One time I said, oh, that salon burns down. I don't care. I mean, I really did, but
Right. Yeah.
um, so that was really tough. That was my sink or swim. And then the other one was COVID.
Yeah.
COVID was I was emotionally blank.
Mm,
I was so scared. I didn't know what to do, but thankfully I mean, no, I'm still working with you, but you were there to help me. And then, okay, this is what you've got, when you open, that unknown of not when you were going to open.
sure.
It was, I mean, for everybody, it was just awful. That stinking unknown, I think, is the worst feeling, one of the worst feelings in being an adult.
Absolutely. And almost two different times, right? When you were, so you moved from New York and then you started the salon and you were kind of just learning as you go, which a lot of us do. There isn't a school for salon owners to go and learn. And that's why I started my coaching business back in 2018, because that was a real issue. Now there's a lot of business education, which is amazing. But that I would imagine would be so tough, and the climate was so different. The climate was different from the first time that you were going through some challenges, from the second time when you were going through challenges with COVID, right? It was how
Mhm.
long of a span of time was that apart, do you think?
So when I see, I have such like mental blocks with COVID. That was what, 2020.
2020, yep.
So I would say when I moved here, 2009, I opened the salon. So I would say 2012.
Okay. So it was a good amount of time in between, those two moments of like, wow, I really like sink or swim kind of thing. When you when And I listen, I remember vividly our conversations during COVID. I remember our just these Zoom chats that we're on right now. I remember working through the numbers, going through the break even. This is all you need. Like, let's just kind of take it step by step. It actually almost makes me a little bit emotional talking about it, because it was just a time where, and I can put myself in your shoes, where you didn't know if you, not you, I'm talking about us an industry.
Right.
Owners didn't know if they were going to be able to carry on.
Right.
How were we going to open? When were we going to open? What were we going to do financially? How were we going to pivot? What does this look like now for our business now that we're open? Because now everything is completely changed. And I remember you just kind of trucking through and just taking it week by week, and really looking at the numbers and running everything, and what can we do to make changes. When you did reopen, what was one of the biggest adjustments you think you had to make when you reopened after, the COVID closures?
That's emotional for me.
Mm,
I'll never forget getting the word that we could reopen and right away calling it a salon meeting,
mhm,
and how we were going to we only could have the occupancy had to be at a certain number, and the space between each
sure,
styling chair. So everyone with that team, it was an amazing team,
mhm,
and we all just did like a schedule
yeah,
of the busiest to a part-timer, when we were fitting in, all the disinfecting,
yeah,
and they were amazing. And then when I had to do the announcement on the telephone, the
mhm,
answering machine, I could not get done doing it without starting to cry, because
wow,
I just felt this huge relief in
mhm,
some ways,
yeah,
but still having that feeling of the unknown, and who was going to come back to the salon to get their hair done and who wasn't.
right,
And I worried about the stylist, and then it was, uh, oof, it was tough. I felt for every hairstylist out there,
yeah,
even the
and
ones that had to go longer than 2 months without working.
yeah, well, yes, I mean, there
Oh,
were parts in Canada that were, almost a year. I know in California, obviously, it was like 9 months or so. Everybody from all across the country was opening at different times, and everyone was going through different things at different times. So
mhm,
you had gone through maybe 2 months prior, somebody in Canada or California was going through 6 months later, and as we're talking about this now, one thing I wanna really make clear is that, like, we're both really emotional that we are still healing from this.
mhm,
Like, we are still moving through this. We are still triggered in ways that may come up for you while you're listening to us talk about this, and obviously, Debbie, it's coming up for you and it's coming up for me just on the other side of it, watching people struggle. But on the flip side of that, I also had the joy to watch people become so resilient, which I
Mhm.
believe became the word for our industry was resilient. And
Right.
watching you, obviously, other salon owners, coaching clients or not, independent artists, students or not, it doesn't matter. Just watching people become so resilient and diving deeper into their core and saying, you know what? I'm a lot stronger than I think I am. And when you're an owner of a business, because I went through that in the recession of 2009, 2010. Like, you don't have a choice. You
No.
don't have a choice to be anything other than strong and resilient because you have this is what I want people to understand because I know I'll have a lot of independents and commission stylists listening. You don't have a choice but to be strong and resilient because their paycheck, them feeding their families, is coming from your business being open. And
Yeah,
that
that
shit used to keep me up at night. And so when you came back and you opened, there were a lot of changes that you made in your business. And one of the things that I think, or one of the biggest things that I noticed was in terms of how you led your team, how you coached your team. That had to be a little bit different because the stylists that you had before were coming back as different people. And the owner that you were before COVID was a different owner now coming back from COVID. So, what was your how did you pivot in your leadership style and your coaching style? How did you or what investments did you start to make in the team? Like what changes did you make in that area?
well, one of the changes is I really had to step back and say, "Okay, I'm a basket case."
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
was very emotional, and I'm emotional in front of them. They know that I'm a softie.
Yeah.
But I care, and I thought, "Okay, you know what? They're just as scared as I am."
Yeah.
And we're all worrying about the same thing. So I said, "Okay, now I need to get my thoughts together. I need to get stronger.
Mm.
I need to
Mhm.
not to be I need to be there for them. Like, okay, what do you want me to do? What can I do to help?" I did anything that they wanted. I mean, it was just but Nina, there's a part of it was a blur,
Sure.
a blur.
Yeah.
So it made me realize that there's so many what made me realize that they really count on us.
Mm. Mhm.
They really
Wow.
count on us. If I could do over, like we had a couple Zooms. I can't remember exactly how many. And if I had to do over, which oh hell no, I never want to go through that again. I don't want
Right.
any of it. Nothing. I would have more meetings, more
Mm.
Zooms,
Mhm.
because I felt sometimes when I think about it, I felt selfish because I was just so wrapped up in my own head, flipping out and scared
Yeah.
and lonely that they had to be this feel the same way. And then I
Sure.
wasn't there as much. Like I definitely I would do that over, but I don't want to do it over.
Right. Well, and here's the thing, there's no playbook. Like, I know that you were there for your team. I know you love your team. You put in your heart and soul into them and you invest in them a ton. And I know that they, love and appreciate you too. And I think that there's no playbook. Like, how do we handle this with moving forward? And yeah, there are a lot of things that we all could have said, well, I wish I would have. But the great news is that you were so resilient and you leaned into what I saw from an outsider's perspective knowing you, but still from an outsider's perspective, is that you really leaned into more of being compassionate and being empathic, leading
Mhm.
with empathy, which I think, I've talked about a lot before. We've shared this before too. Like, we're all human at the end of the day. And people want to get back to some sort of normalcy. And I think leading with compassion was what I saw really built the team stronger. And now moving forward, fast forward to, 2023, at the end of 2023, you expanded your salon. And this is why we're here today because it's like we want to give hope and share, you could go through difficult times and things are going to get tough and it is how you trust and believe in yourself. And even though you felt alone a lot, and I know that you cried a lot, and there were times where you just wanted to kind of probably pack it in, you
Mhm.
found that deeper part of yourself that said, I'm responsible here and they
Mhm.
need me and they're relying on me. And so now you've expanded your salon. You've
Yes.
moved into I remember, I'll never forget when you emailed me, you're like, Nina, I'm going to move into a bigger space. And I'm like, holy shit, we got to run the numbers.
Mhm.
That was the first thing out of my mouth. I was so excited, but automatically I'm like, oh, we got to run the numbers. Right. And moving into that space,
I gotta have you.
moving into that space, you, with your expansion and moving out of a time that was so scary, how did you know it was time to expand? How did you feel financially ready to expand? And what was it like? What was maybe the point that kind of pulled you in that direction? Because you were in a beautiful salon before, you had space, but you're kind of busting at the seams a little bit. So talk us
Oh,
through that expansion a little bit. Yeah.
we were definitely busting at the seams. So it all really started when, trying to find stylists, as we all
Yep.
know, is difficult. And you've got to figure out how you're going to find stylists. So I built a rapport with hair schools, beauty schools around
Mhm.
me,
Yep.
and I explained to them, you know, how the salon works. Said if there's a day that they want to come in shadow, they can. That they do, treat them to lunch so they can get an idea.
Mhm.
So I was getting a great influx of interested stylists, and at one time I had 5 new ones. This is a side note. The sad part is because I live near the largest military base,
Sure.
I have a lot of stylists that are transient because they go where their husbands' careers are. So
Right.
I've shed some tears with some that had to move. Maybe they'll come back. Who knows? Anyway, so I I had a big influx, 5 of them, and I thought, you know what? Okay. And I'm getting feedback from them, like, what do you think of the program? I explained to them you can assist,
Mhm.
X amount of hours a week. And then if you can build on the side. I said it's a win-win. You'll get paid either way.
Mhm.
And I was always ask for feedback.
Mhm.
And they loved it because it was structured, but it wasn't so structured. Like
Right.
I believe that everyone's gonna move at their own pace.
Mhm.
But that's why you talk to them with one-on-one, so they move at their own pace. So I thought, okay, there's a spot was opening on the end of the strip mall that I'm in. Oh, and it has all windows on 2 sides. And I said, okay, I'm gonna pull the trigger. And that's when I emailed you.
Right. And I was so excited for you. And I remember, during our coaching sessions too, where, hey, when a lot of owners were really struggling to get hairstylists, you were always like, I got another one. I have another resume. I got another application. I have another one that's starting. And it was constant. And I want to dive deeper into that because I would say one of the biggest struggles that we have right now in this industry for the salon owners is finding talent that aligns with their brand and brand mission. And what you have done has been very interesting in terms of your tactic. You already shared a little bit of it that you built your relationships with the schools,
Mhm.
but you're open to training them. You are spending time with them. You're going, you're in the schools. Like, talk a little bit about what actually works for you in terms of attracting new team members, and they're starting at the assistant level, right? Most of them are starting at the assistant level, and then you're building and growing them, and then they end up being and staying with you, and they end up doing very well. So walk us through that process.
Okay, first I have to start out with I remember being a new stylist,
Mhm.
and you're like deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
Of course, as time has evolved, it's very different. Social media, you know, it's social media helps them. And anyway, different. How am I going to say this? So I want to be there for them
Mhm.
because I have seen such a change from back. when I got out of school to now. Lovely changes. I mean, I envy them in some ways, and then I get nervous for them in other ways.
Mhm.
So I want to be there to for them out of school, give them, guidance as to um, your benchmarks and then all those little things. But I also want to say be there for them in a different way when they get discouraged, because I've had some discouraged and it breaks my heart because then I ask you, what more can I tell them? Blah, blah, blah. Because I just feel as though what's conveyed in social media sometimes is so not the truth.
Mhm.
It's not that quick. I mean, it's hard, but not that it's hard because if you love what you do, it's not hard.
Right.
But I want to be there for them with those steps so they feel more comfortable as they're growing.
Right.
And let's face it, December was a big eye opener for people.
Mm. Mhm.
Even newer ones that were brand new stylists that were growing, they said, wow. So I think that I sit down with them, I explain it to them, and I just again, I figured out how to look at the person
Mhm.
and then get a feel for them and just go from there. Again, I've had such wonderful new stylists come out of schools.
Mhm.
I'm very lucky. And it's a team. It's not just me, but it's also them. And I've got a wonderful team that helps the girls. I mean, it makes me emotional because people love coming to our salon because they get the sense that we are a team. We
Mhm.
really are. And it's not I always say to them, I'm not your boss. We're a team. But they say, no, but you don't understand. I said, I do understand, but I can't express to you that we wouldn't be here if it weren't for you.
Mhm.
From somebody that just started with us to somebody that's been with us for a long time. It's a team. So they get help from me, the new girls, and they get help from the the more seasoned stylists.
Sure.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that emotion.
I know, I'm here for it. Starting to get teary-eyed too. We can't somebody's gotta run the show, you know what I mean? We both can't be crying on here. So, I feel like because I've gotten to witness this and how you've attracted people, I do use you anonymously as an example for other owners who are struggling. You're spending time in the schools, right? I mean, you're going into the schools. That's important. Like you're actually going into the school. I think
Well,
people
well, wait. I have been into a local school, two school. The third one, it's been I've been on the docket to be there for career day, but
okay,
the last time the new stations weren't going in correctly, so I had to call and say, "Oh
right?
my god, please don't give up on me. You will meet me in person." We correspond all the time, but
Right.
just so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the days of sending a flyer over in an email and say, "Hey, can you hang this in your break room in your school?" Like that doesn't work anymore. You have to have relationships with the teachers, you have to spend time doing demos, you have to build the relationships with the students, right? Now, you have positioned yourself as the go-to salon in your area, so when students are graduating, you've built a reputation for yourself that people want to come with you. That takes time. That takes time knowing the teachers. It takes time cultivating those relationships. Again, spending time in the schools, but then also the experience that the stylists are feeling when they come to you is they get training. They're nurtured. They understand they have some sort of like a loose curriculum that they're going through because it is for you, it's very customized per stylist. Someone may take 6 months to go through a training, someone may take a year, right? You're flexible in that approach. And then what I love about you is that you're quick to put people on the floor. You don't, what I see often is that salon owners want to keep their assistants for a long period of time where you're ready to turn them over and say, "Hey, if Jenny stylist is ready at 6 months, I'm going to put her out. I'm going to put her on the floor so she can start making money and feel good." And that system has worked for you, and then from there they move up in their benchmarks and they get raises, and they're paid well, and then you have a team that's supporting them, and you're doing things together, and it really is a system from inception, and then from the schools to them coming to you, how they're feeling, how they're being trained, how it's very individualized, and then how they're moving up and how they're making more money. Like that's what I want people to understand, because you can't hold people back.
No. It's interesting because I can relate to the times that you would hold people for
Sure.
a year.
Yeah.
And as our industry was evolving and there was so much for them to see
Mhm.
with the internet, some of them were grasping it, were getting it. And it's like, okay, I can't think that way anymore.
Mm.
Because I also associate it to generations.
Mhm.
You know, my generation above is, oh no, no, don't take a chance. And then the lower, like, oh no, the younger are going to take that chance and step out.
Yeah.
So you really as an owner need to focus on the individual and
Mhm.
see where they're at, because I'm amazed at what some of them can do out of school. I love it. I'm blown away by it. It is
Mhm.
so refreshing. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So it
Yeah.
kind of sort of gives me that little get up and go.
Yeah, kinda
I
keeps
learned
you on
so
your
much from
toes.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if we could really, you know, the new stylist could learn from the veteran stylist in terms of, technique and, how to, be consistent and take different approach in the way that they're growing. And the veteran stylist can learn from the new stylist and how to take risks and how to leverage
Yeah.
social media and how to use efficient placement and patterns. Like Jay Ladner, my bestie's always talking about being efficient. Like there's so many things that we can learn from each other. I think we
Right.
just have to listen to each other. And I like that you're kind of cultivating that culture because you have people that have been with you for a while and you have people who they're just getting started. So you've got to create that team and culture there. Obviously, since you moved and expanded your business, that meant that you're busy. Your salon is booked and busy and you've grown substantially since, we started working together 4 years ago. And I can't believe it's been that long. Um,
And you're
if
going to be at my funeral.
I know you always say that. Listen,
You're not losing me. Oh no.
when it comes to tips on attracting new clients, what is your biggest marketing pool? Like, where do you get your clients from? And why do you think clients choose you, your salon?
Okay. I have a front desk person that is amazing.
Mhm.
She keeps the pulse of the salon
Mhm.
like no other. So she's always, I'll ask her, so what's going on? What's going on? She'll say, where are we getting our clients from? Google. A
Mhm.
lot are from Google. So another one was word of mouth, which
Mhm.
I'm a firm believer of that.
Absolutely.
And we started doing these virtual consultations
Mhm.
because I want to make the salon as efficient as possible, because I'm always really, people don't want to wait anymore.
Right.
Like since COVID, things have changed.
Sure.
So okay, so we did a virtual consultation, and she said we've scheduled 14 out of 20 since February.
Wow. Okay.
So at first I was reluctant because of the fact that it's going to take time for them to do it. But we've had it, people, when they've come in, they've said, oh, I really like that because they could explain what their hair condition, what they wanted out of it. And then the stylist can call them and talk to them about and have another little consultation to make sure they're booked for the right service. So, and a lot of people like our website also,
Mhm.
but I don't do like marketing.
Yeah.
Once in a while I've been in a local magazine, just like, okay, better get the salon out there, don't forget about us. But one of the things that, and this is feedback from clients, that makes us stand out is the team makes everybody feel so welcomed,
Mhm.
and we have fun. We have a lot of fun. We laugh a lot. They like how they're felt welcomed. They like the vibe. That they can tell that we work together as a team. And it's taken a while for some of the clients. You've got those people that have such strong loyalty to their hairstylist. But way back for me, it had to change a little bit because society was changing.
Mhm.
People, two career families, and there wasn't a lot of time. So if you can't make your appointment, well, so and so has an opening, and we document everything so you can go to that person, and everything is there. I really wanted all of us to create that environment for people so that they don't have to worry. Their hair will get done, and their guest experience
Mm.
is, we get a lot of feedback about that,
That's
positive.
awesome. And I
Mhm.
think, the customer service aspect of it goes such a long way. When you mentioned that you're getting people from Google, that is one of the biggest platforms that salons get their traffic from. And, Google My Business and making sure that that's up to date and everything is current. And, you're not even advertising on Google. You're just coming up on the search for Google and people are finding you, and also referrals. And I
Right.
believe that, when people come into your salon and they feel that team environment, they're more likely to tell their friends and family. So that's where probably your word of mouth and referrals are coming from. And the consistency through all of that is essential and it's key. So, I mean, we went over the river and through the woods here. We answered a lot of things and lots of questions and all of that. And I love it because it's so tangible for owners right now. But if there was one piece of advice that you could give to salon owners, commission and hybrid salon owners right now, whether they're struggling or they're flourishing, what would that one piece of advice be?
Honestly, you've got to be able to change with the industry, with the time. That has been scary for me, nerve-wracking, but I do like a challenge. So I really think that that's important. Stay with the time, because when you're staying current, not it helps the stylist also.
Mhm.
So it makes them feel like they're in a better place, and they've got that support, and they know that, you're changing the salon, and they are changing with the industry standards, or what's the latest. That to me is just so important.
Mm. Well,
It's very important.
that's a mic drop because I think one of the reasons why I believe that some salon owners have a hard time is because they are not open to change. And I believe when I go through the list of my coaching clients, you included, and I think about it, the ones that have been the most open to change are the ones that are thriving the most. And you're always open, like, what can we do differently? How can we, and you talk to your team about this stuff. You talk to me about it. How can we change? I always want to make sure we're current, whether it's with, bringing on product lines or online booking or doing these virtual consultations or all the things. I'm just spitting things out over the years here, but I think that is probably a mic drop moment. If you're an owner listening, you have to be open to change. You can no longer do the things that you were doing 5 years ago. You can no longer lead the way that you were leading 5 years ago. You can no longer run your numbers the way that you did 5 years ago. And most importantly, you can no longer attract the stylists that you in the way that you were doing 5 years ago, because if you wanna attract, and I get this question often, "Well, I wanna attract stylists that are, newer and younger," and I'm like, "Okay, well, what does your brand and brand message say about you? Are you putting that off? When they go
Right.
on your website, are they gonna land on your website and say, 'Wow, I can really see myself here,' or are they gonna land on your website and say, 'This isn't my vibe?'" Right? And I think you've done, let me just highlight you a little bit because I know you don't like to talk about yourself, but I like to talk about you. Um, what you've done in excellence is really be so open to changing, and you've been so resilient, and your awareness is so key that you are constantly asking questions of how can I grow? How can I? And that I isn't just it's a we for the team, right? But you're asking yourself for to me, like, what can I do different? How can we grow? How can we change our approach? And you're always so open to that. And I think that's why you expanded. That's why you have so many new team members. That's why people want to work with you. And it's been really cool to watch you grow. And it's been really, really an honor to watch you not only grow as a salon owner, but also you have grown a lot as a human. And that is the coolest thing for me to see as a just being with you over these past 4 years, there's such an evolution of how you were when we started together in 2020 to now. And I get to witness that. Like that is that's the reward for me. And I'm so proud of you and your team. I haven't met the team yet, but I already love them because you just always speak so highly of them. And I know that they appreciate you. And this is the kind of team camaraderie and culture that we're talking about. When people say commission salon owners are dying, and that I shouldn't say that. Commission salon owners, they're not dying. The commission salon structure is dying. Poor choice of words. The commission salon
Some days
structure
that's
is
true.
dying. I would love for this interview to pop up because this is what it takes. It is grit. It is hard work. It is sleepless nights. It is crying. It is being scared. It's being nervous. It's being honest and vulnerable and leading with empathy and being open to change and scooping up those team members and really hugging them hard and walking them through hard times. And I just wanted to thank you for sharing your truth with us today because I think it's so powerful and so needed. So thank you so much for just being yourself and being vulnerable.
Thank you, Nina. I owe it to you. If I didn't listen to that podcast 4.5 years ago, and then I was so nervous to email you because I'm like, oh my God, I'll probably be the worst salon owner she's ever encountered. Remember,
Yes.
the old blow dries.
Mhm. Yes, we nixed that right away. But, people say that, "Well, it's because of you." No, it's
Well,
because of you. You've
well,
done the work. I've
we're a
just guided
team.
you along. Yes, we are a
We're a
team.
team
Yes, we are for
because
sure.
I was scared shitless. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
When it came to business, I was scared shitless. If it's sports, no fear whatsoever. So I had to correlate that a little bit. But I really do owe you so much because you made me think. You think differently, think outside the box, um, and gave me the confidence to be able to do what I'm doing. And because of that, I just like I feel so much better. I like there's a way for salon owners to take those little baby steps.
Mhm.
You can. I mean, sometimes I say to myself, what would be a baby step that I've taken?
Mm.
And it's okay, you know what? I believe if we're going to be a team, when we have a team powwow, I'm going to ask their opinion. What do you guys want to do? And I'm not one to say, oh, no. I mean, we roll together as a team, and I think that to me has helped me also.
Mm.
You and all the different approaches. I could start crying, but I won't. I'll try not to. I
Running out
can't
of
thank
tears
you
today and
enough.
tissues. Well,
I
thank
can't
you.
thank you enough.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. And I want people to be able to reach out to you and find you. So, can you tell them where they can find you on Instagram? So, the salon, where they can reach out to
Yep.
you, or if you want to give your personal, that's totally up to you, and your website for the salon as well. So they can go and check you out.
So the website is Exhale A Salon, all one word.com. And then you can reach out through Instagram, exhale lower hyphen
Underscore?
underscore. Thank you
Yep.
very much.
Hmm.
Woo. And then exhale underscore a salon on Instagram. And I will be
Perfect.
more than happy to help anyone or be their cheerleader.
I love it.
Just
You
like you,
make a
I've
good
lived through
cheerleader.
it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I get it. Thank you so
So
much for
thank
sharing your
you.
time and your knowledge and going through all of the highs and the lows with us. And thank you, everyone who is listening. Be sure to reach out to Debbie. You can find her salon, obviously, Exhale a Salon on Instagram and website. Reach out anytime. And thank you so much for tuning in. And we will see you next time. Thanks, guys.